We very much appreciate you joining us today to learn more about our super exciting product release, Evolve 365 from Microsoft Copilot. I'm Steve Winter, the Executive Vice President for Planet Technologies. And joining me today is Demetrius Rogers, our CTO, Chief Technology Officer for our state and local government, education, and commercial business, as well as Julie White. Julie's a senior Evolve 365 product owner and project manager for us, and a true expert on continuing education, workforce development, and training. Before we get started today, a couple things of housekeeping. First of all, we will be recording the session. So just want to let everybody know that we will be recording. You're allowed to come off mute at any time. So if you have questions, or when we get to the end, if there are questions, then please feel free to join them. We'll also be monitoring the chat as well. So if there's any questions that come up that you want to put in chat, please go ahead and use that. We really appreciate the time. We're positive this is going to be informative. And this is really a new time here with AI and AI inside of our collaboration tools. Microsoft 365 is truly transformational. This is a transformational moment for all of us. The ability to leverage AI in a controlled environment, in a governed environment, to be able to perform common tasks, gather information much more quickly, and put search on steroids across our entire organization is unprecedented in terms of the opportunities that it presents us. And I'm sure that's why you're all attending here today, as well as the other more deployment-focused Microsoft Copilot webinars and engagement we've been having. We've been having such incredible attendance. There's so much passion, there's so much interest around this topic. I think the first thing we want to set a barrier, a boundary here on is what is Evolve 365. So I always love to tell this story. Planet Technologies did the first couple of state and local government Office 365 deployments, even before it was called Office 365, when it was called BPOS, for those that have been around that long. And we were inside of a data center, and we watched the blue screen go from 0 to 100%, and we saw email and files move from on-premises to the cloud, and we all started high-fiving, because this is an unbelievable moment. Things have moved from on-premises to the cloud. This is now, 9-10 years ago. What we found the next day was an end-user revolt. Well, great, this stuff had moved from here to there, but I didn't know how to use it. I hadn't been communicated properly with. I didn't know what to do to now use this new environment that I had, and going out and Googling wasn't going to work for me. And so understanding that problem and then understanding the value of organizational change and of adoption change, Planet Technologies developed Evolve 365. At its core, it's 50% technology, which is on-demand videos, thousands and thousands and thousands of videos on every single topic covered under M365 that's end-user facing. But the real power of Evolve 365 is in the human services, what the learning strategist delivers. Every subscription of Evolve 365 has both. The technology-driven videos, skill tracks, and other things like that you would expect for end users from a technology perspective. But then they also have this learning strategist who's going to deliver things like Ask Me Anything sessions that are going to deliver webinars to your customers, to your end users. They're going to deliver adoption reports and communication plans and potentially deliver champions programs. Combined, the technology and the human services are really delivering unbelievable results for our customers, government customers, commercial customers. Today, we're here to talk about the extension of that. Evolve 365 plus Microsoft Copilot technologies. So what are some of the problems that you're facing when you're looking to roll out Microsoft 365? What are the things that our customers and Microsoft customers have been most concerned about? So during the pilot rollout of Microsoft 365, what Microsoft and Planet found is about 70% of the success of a rollout was tied to organizational change. Part of organizational change is end user readiness, end user training. And what we really, when we delve into the numbers and we broke into our customer conversations, what we found is they were primarily concerned of really three different things. Number one, there's a high barrier to entry. There's a high cost of entry into Microsoft 365 Copilot. The licenses have a cost. And then there's some organizational readiness at cost around getting your data, getting your security in line, getting all of that stuff in line in order to be able to roll it out properly. And what we found is that organizations were very concerned in saying, hey, we had a reason why we wanted to make this investment and the significant investment in this technology. We want to make sure that whatever that reason was, we get it at the other end of this. So how do you help guarantee our investment, our financial investment in terms of ROI, in terms of productivity, in terms of better constituent services, whatever your end game was, how do you make sure you get it? Well, you got to have end users that actually know how to use these tools. And hopefully some of that training at least is persona based. The second piece here is organizational ethics and governance. So we find, if I just am speaking straight here, one of the tenets of Planet Technologies, we find a couple things. Number one, organizations want to make sure their people know how to prompt and know how to use the system well. Number two, they want to make sure they're not prompting things they don't want them to prompt about. Because quite frankly, sometimes there's actual legal reasons why you're not allowed to see things. And while the security of a document or security of a piece of collateral follows through in terms of the whole entire deployment, we don't want people searching for things. So again, we want them searching for what we want them to search for. We want to discourage them for the things we don't want them prompting for. And then ultimately, we want to have a governance, an ethical and a governance model, and we want to make sure our people are trained on that model moving forward. So, hey, we want to train them on what we wanted in the end, what was our end game. We want to make sure we're getting that. We want to make sure we train them so it's in line with our governance and our ethics. They're prompting for good prompts, bad prompts. And then guess what? Number three, AI was designed by nature to change every single day. It morphs, it changes. So the need to continuously educate our end users on the first two are driven by the third. So evolving features and evolving AI drive the need for continuous training and continuous learning. We're going to jump into each one of these things and how Evolve 365 addresses them. I'm positive that these three things are resonating with you because they're resonating with every customer that we're talking to out there. So first, meeting mission objectives. Put simply, those are big words to say, we made a financial investment, an organizational investment for a reason. We had an end goal or a series of end goals in mind. We want to make sure we get them. So Demetrius, Julie, how does Evolve 365 for Copilot address those issues?
Yes, thank you, Steve. I'll start off, and Julie, you can chime in and keep me honest as always, right? So the first thing is focusing heavily on being able to train your specific users, not as Steve said, but also make sure they're training for the correct departments, right? When you look at Evolve 365 or Copilot, it's training for agency personas. So no matter if you're in the marketing department, the finance department, you're an agency, an executive administrator, whatever the case may be, we have multiple personas for your end users to be trained on how to interact with Copilot. We also focus on heavily personalized learning scenarios. And these are live, these are not just automated training, these are live training scenarios where you'll get to work with your learning specialist on the Planet side to help you with that. We have the hackathons and promptathons. Once again, this is intended to help you help your users improve on how to prompt, how to interact with Copilot in a safe and compliant manner. Also, there are scenario-based interactive working sessions, as well as a champions program, which is the ability to add on some things. Julie, did I miss anything there?
No, that's a great overview of what we offer here. And honestly, the scenario-based training is extremely helpful in terms of, we have our personas, which, need dedicated training for the types of tools that we'll be working with that will be integrated with Copilot. But the scenarios that users work with is really where we start to find value and the efficiency through our business processes throughout the day.
And many of these things are delivered by your learning strategist. Again, we also have these 30-second to 3-minute video content and skill tracks that are going to be available 24/7 for your end users, regardless of where they are in the world. So we talked a bunch about this organizational ethics and governance. We want to develop a governance model. We want to encourage prompts we want to discourage prompts maybe that we don't. And then ultimately, we want to have the ability to train our users on our governance model. That governance model, by the way, might be targeted at Copilot. It could very well also be targeted at your overall AI, artificial intelligence initiatives as well. We have a great story where we're working with an agency there. It's very important to them, for instance, that their prompts don't capture anything that is points out any type of bias. And they have to capture some of those prompts, and they have to make sure that there's no bias in their prompts. They want to make sure that they're training folks on how to make sure there's no bias. Again, Demetrius, Julie, how does Evolve 365 for Copilot help address that?
Sure. Copilot is likely going to be one of the largest investments you all made since you've got Microsoft 365, right? Office 365 from an end user perspective. And so the need for training, ongoing training for this, for specifically in the compliance and governance training that we have, helps your users understand that. There's specific governance videos that will be focused specifically on your organization's needs. There are out of the can-box videos as well, but we also have the ability with this Evolve 365 platform to provide you additional videos as you need. So you don't have to worry about this, hey, I launched it. What happened at launch time and I was able to train my users. As we know, compliance and governance is ongoing. It's a life cycle. And with that life cycle with Evolve 365 or Copilot, you will always be up to date in your training. Julie?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add on to that, we know that it's very hard for organizations to create this type of training on their own. So what we strive to do is work with you, partner with you to make sure that we're coming up with an outline of what is most important to be in these customized videos. And then our team is the one building them and making sure that they're finalized, professional, and then available inside of Evolve 365. And so you would be able to review those and make sure that they are meeting your standards, and then they'll be available to your users with the rest of the training.
You're on mute, Steve.
Well, there's $5 in the tip jar, in the mute jar. I actually have this great recorded button here. It's light up blue red right now saying I'm mute. Yeah, so if there's any questions or anything, please make sure you put them in the chat, and again, we'll have a Q&A time at the end as well. So the third component, when we talk to customers, again, these are the big three. The big things, three things they're talking about. They're talking about making a big investment, want to make sure I get the reasons why. They're talking about this governance and prompting and ethics. And then the third thing is AI changes every day by design. Gets smarter, gets dumber, depending on how the inputs that we provide it. How do we protect ourselves long term? How do we make sure our folks are staying up to date with the best prompts, with the best way to leverage this incredibly powerful platform? Again, Elias, Julie, Evolve 365 for Copilot. How are we addressing this?
Yeah, so the only constant we have in this industry vertical is change, right? We all know that. But with AI, the pace of change is more rapid than ever. So once you're in the cloud, we all started getting accustomed to things, new features, new releases. Our ability to control those releases became something that we weren't able to do so as we were to do in our legacy days where everything was on premise. But with AI and this Evolve 365 training platform for Copilot specifically, we're going to continue to update this training platform as new features get released. Our learning strategists, the people like Julie and her team, will work with you and your folks to make sure that you understand, hey, here are the new features, here's how this content is relevant for your users. You can translate that and make sure that from an adoption standpoint, it's not a organizational change management aspect that says, hey, we implemented Copilot, look, we're done. We always know there's going to be new things coming out, and you're going to want your users to be able to take advantage of those, not only from a compliance perspective, but also from a feature capability perspective. Julie?
Yes, and I would just add that the Evolve 365 content is updated weekly, and that's all of our content. We have a dedicated team of content folks looking at the Microsoft roadmap. We have access to preview tenants and tenants that with first access, so that we can have these features and functionality available for filming before they're available to general public. And so we're able to keep up with the Microsoft changes fairly quickly. And then anything that we might see as a gap, we fill it in as soon as we can. And then the learning strategist, in terms of communicating to your users, everybody on our side is watching that Microsoft roadmap. And as we see things, we want to make sure that we're sharing them with you so that we can decide if it's something that we should build awareness on for your end users, and then show how to use those new features. Or simply if it's just a change. Sometimes those small UI changes, the interface, buttons move, and sometimes that can trip up end users enough to slow them down. And that's one of the things that we can assist with as well.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, if you think you are going crazy every time Microsoft makes a UI change, you can imagine what our content team feels about it. It is amazing, though, how quickly they're able to turn around new content based on those UI changes that Microsoft puts out. And again, that's one of the reasons why this sort of, I want to go out and search and maybe find something on YouTube that's 6 months old or 2 months old. It's just not effective for the users that you're trying to get to, right? You're not trying to get to the 10% of your population who just pick stuff up and just go out there and, those people will figure something out. It's the 90% of your population, and I'm talking about M365 across the board. It's the 90% of the population that, are going to struggle with this, and a portion of that 90% are going to struggle in silence. Right, and we're trying to make sure we attack those people who are struggling in silence. With Evolve 3 with a Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, that problem is exponentially larger, right? Because now you've got this power of AI, and you want to make sure they're using it in the way you want them to use it. They're not using it in the way that you don't want them to use it, right? So making sure that you cover that and then you're keeping up with it is really an important problem. And I really do want to go back to the 7% number, because the technology deployment component of this stuff is very small once you get past any remediation. So when you're actually looking at a Copilot, an M365 Copilot launch, there's work up front, like I got to enable, I got to understand what I got to fix. There's some remediation work that has to be done depending on where you are. But the actual deployment work as it relates to getting Copilot to go is very small. But that 70 percentile that equals a positive experience and actual adoption, organizational adoption, is inside of organizational change. And what we're talking about here is a critical component of organizational change. You can't just meet with somebody one time or do an interview with them and expect them to adopt this technology ongoing in the way that you intended when you made the acquisition. You want to add something to that, D?
Yeah, I was going to say, as technology professionals, we all know that one aspect, a small aspect of success for a project or a technical implementation is the technical capability and enhancements that you enable. The larger part is the user perception of that change and how it impacted their daily lives, right? Did it affect my job? Did I understand the change? How am I able to leverage this, or did it make sense? And so we've all been in positions where the IT technical teams are high-fiving themselves because the project was successful from that standpoint, but the organizational change management, the end user education, those things were not where they needed to be. So that project may not have been deemed a success by all stakeholders. So what Steve was mentioning is absolutely critical.
So then moving to the next slide, this is an encapsulation of some of the components of Copilot for Evolve 365. So Julie, why don't you pick two of these that you think are the most important or the coolest, and share a little bit about each one of those two things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the customizable training is very important. Not any one organization will be utilizing these tools in the same way, maybe from a foundational level, but there may be policies and different governance around the utilization of those that is extremely important to train on. Um, that is how you not only get users to use the tool, but get them to use it appropriately for your organization. And then another one that I might just call out because we haven't talked too much about it are the Ask Me Anything sessions or the Champions programs. Um, the open office hours is really helpful for users who just want to drop in and ask a quick question. Or sometimes we have folks come in and listen to the other questions because they don't know where to start. And so the Champions program is another piece of those Ask Me Anything sessions where we can actually build a community of champions in your organization that will help promote the training, help promote adoption of these tools in the way that we're asking users to adopt them. So, by also learning and knowing the tools, the governance, the policies, and then being able to teach those smaller groups that they might be working with. And so it's just very helpful to have all those different learning types for your users.
And then Julie, which one of these bullet lists are included in the base subscription and which ones are an add-on?
Great question. So typically the one-on-one coaching is going to be an additional service, champions program, typically an add-on service. And then I would say if we're doing custom video content outside of the Copilot subscription that we offer, that can sometimes be an extra cost as well.
Awesome. Demetrius, any of these that you want to hop into, or you think Julie?
Absolutely. I was waiting for that question, Steve. Right? The persona-based learning path, right? Because we all recognize that once you implement Copilot in your environment, the different departments are going to use them very differently, right? You're going to have finance people. They're going to know how to crunch numbers. How can I do this better in Excel? How can I take advantage of this, of being able to create charts and graphs using to be able to demonstrate my numbers and trends? That's something that's specific within this particular training. Marketing teams being able to create the outgoing messages versus internal messages. You're going to have specific learning paths based on the roles that exist in your organization today. And I think that's a very exciting part for me.
Well, we hope everybody out there is picking one or two favorite ones they're looking for as well. We look forward to, talking to you about those. Just real quickly on pricing, obviously we'll provide you individual pricing if you're interested, but for existing Evolve 365, they're getting this the Evolve 365 customers, they're getting the Copilot content and human services at no additional cost. So that's fantastic. Who does that? We're so focused in on making sure our customers get the value they're looking for. We just are rolling it in a current subscription. For new customers, it's a per user cost. It's not named user though, it's active user. So that's fantastic as well. Every subscription again includes the human services that we talked about. And it's available with the full catalog of the M365 plus the Copilot, M365 Copilot, or there is an M365 Copilot standalone option as well. So again, I'll just go back to that. Existing Evolve 365 customers get it at no extra cost. Current customers can acquire it either within the full catalog or Copilot standalone. And again, it's a per user subscription. Active user not named. Julie, I think the moment everybody's been waiting for, I'll hand my screen over to you and you can drive some demos.
Sounds great. All right. And I'll just check in with my partners here. Can you guys see my screen? All right, perfect. Yeah. So what I'm looking at here is just an Evolve 365 trial site. So if you want to contact us to take a peek at this with your own hands and own eyeballs, we'd be able to get you a trial access to a site like this. so you can peek around at what we offer. I wanted to land here on our library page so that I can just mention that the full catalog for customers purchasing the M365 Plus Copilot will be able to work with the learning strategist to turn on and off any of our content that they might find interesting or relevant to their users, rather, so that if you aren't using certain applications, we wouldn't have that training content available, so that keyword searches and things like that return better results. And then I'm just going to hop into our Copilot content so that we can take a look at that. All of our content subjects inside of Evolve 365 are set up very similar to this, where we offer guided learning at the top, playlists of videos to help self-learners get started. And then we also offer skill tracks associated to the subject that we're looking at. Skill tracks are going to be trackable training courses that users can enroll in on their own, or admins can publish them to users either as suggested or mandatory. So if you have a sales team and you want them to take some sales engagement with Microsoft Copilot training, we actually have that available, and you'd be able to publish that to a set of users with that title or those types of work experiences. And our skill tracks are set up very similarly. We have lessons of videos that users can walk through, easy to be self-paced learning, so that as users complete videos, check marks turn green, and as users complete sections, green check marks will show for them. We also have activities for users to go out into the application and actually do. That helps with retention, of course, and then training. Quizzes, also part of our skill tracks, not only help with retention, but also some compliance if we need to make sure that our users are getting the appropriate learning before maybe we give them access to certain things. So it's definitely something that is easy for users to enroll in on their own, or for admins or managers to publish and either as suggested or mandatory training. We do offer a little bit of gamification inside of Evolve with badges of completion, which is really great. We have a leaderboard for folks who want to get number one as a trainer in their organization. And then any of these skill tracks also have the capability of returning a completion certificate. So if you need to keep those, or folks want to have those for their records, we offer that as well. I'm going to pop back over here so we can take a look. We do have the Copilot content broken up by app. So any of the content for Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Teams will be very easily accessible. And you can also always use keyword searching inside of Evolve and narrow down by subject so that you're searching for just the content that you want to return in those results. And so lots of interesting things to dig into here. I'm going to just pause for a minute and see if Steve or Demetrius have anything they want me to cover with everyone today.
Maybe some of the personas, Julie, would be great to show.
Absolutely. So in terms of the skill tracks, we do have marketing impact with Copilot, sales engagement, data management, enhanced productivity with essentials. So just basic Copilot awareness and prompt training as well, which is very helpful. It's interesting how AI is kind of moving forward. If we start a prompt and it's not returning the results we want, we have to kind of start over, but it's learning from us as we go. So effective prompts are really important as we start to help AI learn what we're looking for. And then we do also have things for enhanced writing experiences. So helping folks with Word. We have data analysis opportunities, financial finesse, which would be very helpful, of course, for folks utilizing Copilot in Excel and other tools like Power BI. And then we also have more marketing information here. The administrative assistance is also very Very important. If we have admin assistants, we want to make sure, executive assistants, excuse me, we want to make sure that they have appropriate training to be able to work with delegation and things like that. Legal documentation, communication, so many things. And then also the Bing searches as well, which again is one of those things that we want to make sure that we're watching with governance and policies and things.
And the persona-based catalog is just going to continue to grow, which is really interesting. One of the things about Planet Technologies that's super interesting is because we also do deployments, we also do OCM in addition to Evolve 365. That's super powerful for our customers because all in one ecosystem, we're sharing that feedback on a constant feedback loop. And so, when we're hearing things, or OCM folks are hearing things, we can roll that back into training. When we're hearing things on the deployment side, we can roll that back into Evolve 365. So being able to share that from one side of our business to the other is really a critical benefit to our customers. They really benefit from that, and we're able to roll things out and get things out quickly that are meaningful for our end customers, and really, quite frankly, so important in a new technology. We also offer reports. Julie, you want to talk a little bit about the reports and adoption reports?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll pop over to our reporting dashboard here. This is a trial site, so we're not going to see a lot of spikes in activity and things like that, but I'll just kind of mention a few highlights here. The wonderful thing about this is that your learning strategist will be rolling up the highlights and the most beneficial information for you month to month so that you can kind of see trends. And we'll work with you to make sure it's the information that you're looking for, of course. And so we'll offer what's most popular in terms of the information that we're sharing in the beginning, and we can hone in on the different reporting information that makes the most sense for your organization and your learners. And so if that's specific, kind of tracking specific trainings or those persona trainings, we would be able to do that with you. But essentially, we're able to capture activity on the site as a whole, most popular subjects, site activity in terms of dates, the most enrolled skill tracks and completions. This also allows us to dig in all the way to the individual user and see history, view history. We can look at specific skill tracks and see who's enrolled, who has completed, and where they are in progress if they're not quite done. And if we have those mandatory skill tracks published to users, we're able to capture information in terms of dates and different things of completion. Sometimes we want users to take training by a certain date, and we're able to do that. And then the reporting allows us to make sure that if we need to follow up with folks and just send a reminder, we can do that. And your learning strategist would be watching that information for you.
And if anybody has any questions while Julie's got the portal open, please dump them into the chat. We'll try to address them in live and in real time. But Julie, one final thing from me. This isn't necessarily Copilot specific, but we haven't talked a lot about help desk and Microsoft applications. Most of our help desks are not application experts. So there is oftentimes stress in a new rollout on help desk. With Copilot, that's going to happen all the time, as we've already sort of discussed. It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing learning. How are these technology videos, how are they able to be leveraged by the help desk?
Yeah, great question. So not only can they train as a user so that they can be better prepared to answer those questions as they come in, we do have a tool called Solution Sender inside of the site that allows us
that
to
can
give
be
elevated
deducted that are
access
over
Thank
to
6,000 pounds.
Sorry, we'll go ahead and mute here if we can.
6,000.
There we go. Go ahead,
Okay,
Julie.
thank you. So this allows me to search for specific criteria on the site. So if the scenario being help desk, if someone calls into the support desk and they're asking a question that perhaps I can answer, I would be able to utilize this tool to send a follow-up email directly from the site with a few links to training. And if I don't know the answer to the question that they're calling in and asking for, I can search for that answer here, make sure it's an appropriate video by looking at the content, and then send that to the user as the follow-up. And so these emails that we're able to send from the site are customizable in terms of the templates. And so you'd work with your learning strategist to make sure that we have the appropriate branding, maybe footer information for the help desk, things of that nature. And then we have the capability of either just sending the link to the video or some instructional text with the link. Sometimes all users need is a quick list, a bullet list of instructions to get them going. And so we want to offer that as well. Just again, trying to capture as many learning styles as we can with this system. And then we just address the email and send it. Like I said, the email templates are fully customizable in terms of look and feel and also the text that is there. And then we just send. And so this is an elevated permission area that we often give access to the support desk folks, content champions, maybe managers. This is a really great space for those users who others are going to. Maybe those content champions and things like that just around the office would benefit from this as well. But honestly, the support desk is the biggest kind of benefit here. And that also does a couple things for us. So as we're launching new products and new services to our users, the influx of calls to the support desk can be quite high. And so what we're doing by also sending these solution senders either as follow-ups or as follow-up to share training if I couldn't answer the question, it's showing the user that they can actually come to the Evolve portal to try to answer their question before they call the support desk. And so we have seen trends of lowering those how-to calls to the support desk, so that then those folks can focus on the technical aspect of those deployments.
That's great, Julie. So again, if anybody has any questions or anything they want to see, we look forward to addressing them. Again, I really want to come back to the three main things that we have been hearing from customers. Number one, there's a reason why I've made this investment or about to make this investment. I want to make sure that I get that, and I want to make sure my end users can adopt the technology. I want to help with governance and the corporate ethics. I want to make sure we're prompting for what we should prompt and we're not prompting for what we shouldn't. And I want to make sure that we're not encouraging people to see things and evaluate things they shouldn't. And number three, AI is always changing. And one of the stories I love to tell is, as we were going through doing some product development, I reached out to a CISO of a sizable federal agency and talked about this. And I said to him, in his particular case, I said, if it was going to cost about, 2% in his case of your licensing costs at Microsoft for Copilot to guarantee these three things, would you do it? And he was like, in a heartbeat. So then I talked to him about it and showed him what we have. And he's like, yeah, sign me up all day long, because this is such a fraction of the cost of the overall Microsoft licensing costs on something like this in order to be able to, to drive the corporate initiatives that we have. So give anybody a chance to come off mute if they'd like to and ask any questions. Anybody have any questions? Feel free. I love the fact that we've been so thorough, you guys, we have addressed all the questions today.
I am seriously impressed.
So as I'm pulling up, trying to get the slide back up here, Demetrius, any thoughts as we get ready to close?
Yeah, I do have one other thought. And so a lot of times when we implement significant changes like Copilot will be into your ecosystem, we've accommodated for the initial budgeting. We've said, okay, we're going to do organizational change management, we're going to train our users. And typically that's been a one-time event. And I think, what we're having to do with the implementation of AI is also change our thought process. Our thought process, as a former leader of a large organization, and specifically a statewide organization, we have to focus on how do we ensure that we're going to continue to take advantage of all these new features? Because the question that was asked and answered earlier by Steve about, okay, how do I use this? Well, it becomes more frequent, and a lot of folks don't think about the fact that it's a life cycle, right? Continuous features are going to come out. There's going to be new additions. With AI, it's going to be more important than ever to be able to make sure your users are effectively prompting, make sure they're staying up to date on compliance guidelines, making sure all these things. And it's like, well, I have this great technology. Am I leveraging it to the best of my ability? Am I training my users? Am I successfully getting all that I can out of this? And, I was so excited as we started developing our Evolve 365 Copilot platform service, because it helps address those questions that I would have had if I was in my former seat. So that was my closing thoughts.
Great, thank you. Please go ahead.
So we're in a GCC tenant. So one thing I struggle with is knowing when we should maybe target training on some stuff that we don't really even have. So I didn't know if you knew of anything in terms of like the timing with GCC, or just thoughts on a strategy there.
Yeah, so Microsoft right now is talking about end of summer for release inside of GCC. So the date that we've been telling people is end of summer for the Microsoft world could be as late as September, end of September, which I know in normal calendars equals fall, but let's build a strategy around that timeline. So I think there's two answers there. If we're answering this in the view of just Evolve 365 for Copilot or end user training and adoption, I don't think that changes your strategy. There changes whether it's Copilot or any other Microsoft technology or any other collaboration technology or whatever. You want the training, the initial communications to be within an earshot of when they're actually going to touch it. You don't want to train somebody and then have them sit for 2 months and not do anything with it. Your training has been worthless. So you want to try to get that within weeks of them being able to touch it and put their hands on it. So a training perspective, but remember, this is continuous, always on training for those users, but the same start date still applies. So even in the M365 world, where we will have technology projects that maybe are a migration or a technology project that's going to be 6 months or 9 months in length, we'll be doing the technology project. The Evolve team will be part of that project, but they won't launch their service, again, until a few weeks before the actual end users are going to touch it. Now, from an implementation perspective, which is not what this webinar is about, but still a good talking point, doing a readiness and enablement engagement today for a end of June, July, August, September rollout is really something smart to do, because you don't know what that remediation is going to be for your particular organization, and remediation could take some time in order for you to feel comfortable in order to roll this out. So our remediation engagement is, depending on the customers, between 4 and 8 weeks long. Do the math from there, and starting something now on remediation was probably a good idea.
Thank you.
Damon, was that helpful to you?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Well, we're here if you need us. I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or feedback. Again, what to do now? Well, we hope we've made you interested and you want to learn more. We're happy to provide a private consultation or demo for you. Please contact us either through your Planet account executive or account team. Feel free to also email us at info@go-planet.com. We do offer a free trial period for Evolve and for Copilot. So if you want to have a trial and get into the portal and mess around and see some of the video content yourself. Remember, that trial is going to be very specific to the technology video content, not the human services, but it will give you a taste and a flair for that. And unless there's any other questions, we'll give a few seconds here for any other questions. I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in there. Again, feel free to connect with me. And with that, unless there's any other questions, we'll say thank you, everybody, for your time, for your attention. We hope we hit the mark. We hope we felt that this time was valuable and well spent. And thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.